Roxbury is one of Boston's most historically important neighborhoods. As a haven for immigrants in the late 19th and early 20th century, and a home for African Americans in the mid-20th, Roxbury has been in a constant state of change for most of its existence. But in recent years, as wealthier people have moved into the neighborhood, gentrification has forced older residents out. What are the economic causes of gentrification?
Typically, gentrification occurs when a neighborhood that may not have been developed before is now having some overwhelming new demand for it. So it's a demand and supply factor. It's a supply of property that's actually underpriced compared to perhaps a nearby property that people may want to live in but may not be able to afford. And because it's underpriced compared to that neighborhood or that city, in this particular case Boston, people want to purchase or rent in that neighborhood to be in close proximity to their job or something else that they're attending at the university perhaps. Mm-hmm. And so that drives prices up just from a simple fact that you have a finite supply in this location that's been underpriced and now a heavier amount of demand.
Boston has become home to biotech and financial services, and of course the expansion of graduate education and the medical sector. So the real driver is just more young people, particularly young people, coming here, having to find housing, teaming up with roommates, and taking over the housing stock. As an economist, it's a simple story of supply and demand. We have very little new supply, we have a lot new demand, and when demand exceeds supply, prices go up.
Roxbury is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Massachusetts, founded in 1630 around the same time as Cambridge, Boston, and Plymouth. Residents of Roxbury were largely upper middle class until 1840, when Irish immigrants moved to the neighborhood due to the potato famine. Roxbury remained a haven for immigrant minority groups throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. The black population moved into Roxbury in the early 1900s and now consists of 61% of the current demographics. Major historical figures that lived in Roxbury include Malcolm X and John D. O'Brien, the first African American on the Boston City School Board, and former professor at Northeastern University. Do you think there are any solutions to gentrification that are caused by either Northeastern or any similar institutions?
It becomes a very complicated question in a sense because gentrification is outside the university's particular control. We're seeing it as an overall demand and supply factor. In terms of what an institution could do, an institution, to the extent that it actually has that in its mission statement, that it's focused on sustainability or social justice, could look for the town or the city that it's located in to actually ensure and impose that there are affordable housing units available as gentrification takes off. And perhaps part of that curriculum or part of their service learning outreach within that neighborhood or their community, part of their core curriculum, they could also stress the importance of why having people of different demographic groups living in the same area is important.
The pressure that has built up around gentrification is almost exclusively due to young people moving here, which is wonderful. And they're graduate students, they're medical interns, they're residents, they're people working in biotech and financial services. We need now a housing revolution to build housing for them in terms of what I call millennial villages. In part to give them good housing, but even more importantly to get them out of the older housing stock that can then be converted back for working families who desperately need housing that they can afford.
Lightview, a student housing complex created as part of a collaboration between Northeastern University and development company American Campus Communities, represents one limited solution to the problem. Lightview is significantly more expensive than on-campus housing and only available to undergraduate upperclassmen.
So what do you guys know about gentrification in Roxbury?
A lot of college students come in and kind of take houses from people who've lived here for a long time, but it's kind of what's cheapest for college students, right?
Where we live here on the hill, it's now a lot of college students living here in renovated apartments that didn't used to be apartments for college students.
Hey, would you say that the majority of the people who live in this neighborhood are students or residents of Roxbury?
Yeah, at least up here and further that way, it is mostly students at this point, which I think does contribute to that gentrification problem.
Gentrification is a complicated problem with no easy solutions. Tackling it will require bold ideas that change the way we think about housing and development, and even then we're better equipped to ameliorate the effects than to prevent it. But it's still a challenge worth taking on, and protecting the lives and livelihoods of the people who make up our community will be well worth the effort.